What's going on? Want to talk about the spirit of fear. You know, the thing about it, it's like if you have it, you might not even really recognize it, man. That's the thing about most of these sinful attributes is that for some reason you're blind to your own. You're like nose blind to your own stink sometimes, and it takes a you got to have an opportunity to confront this thing and acknowledge it. That's the thing. See, I used to, not long ago, a lot of bad things happened to me all at once, and a lot of intimidation and harassment and injustice, and it wore away at me. And then, tragedy. And I didn't realize how fearful I was. You know what I mean? And until I looked back at it after I was kind of away from it for a second. And the thing about it, it's like the thing you need to conquer the fears, power and love and a sound mind, because through operating in love, it gives that, like, look, it gets rid of the guilt. You know what I'm saying? Which allows uh, a kind of power to overcome these negative circumstances and redirect them and flip them around. But it's like you gotta confess to God your faults. Like I had to say, "Hey God, I'm afraid. Why am I so afraid?" Uh, and it's because the spirit of fear was trying to possess me. You know what I'm saying? And I was unaware of how this thing was freaking working me and trying to murk me in this war of attrition, wearing me down. But when I recognized it and I could acknowledge it and I asked God to help, I'm no longer bound by fear. That doesn't mean fear doesn't come knocking at my door. Fear ain't out there jumping around outside the window of the house trying to get back up in here. You know what I'm saying? And it says calm plus action is internal power, man. So when you're all freaked out, full of anxiety, full of fucking doubt, full of fears, full of because all these things intensify your imaginations, which your mind's playing tricks on you, and it literally can start to it makes you fight or flight, but after a while you don't even fight or flight anymore. You just freeze and you start to get shell shocked. You start to disassociate. And once you're disassociated, you're not active no more. The demons can kind of just puppet you anyway. You're already defeated. You already defeated yourself. You psyched yourself out. And that's the ultimately. Or fear can also make you preemptive strike an enemy to preserve yourself. But it was all exaggerated. It might even be partially true. But look, the fear, you gave into the fear instead of boldly, you know what I'm saying, just with confidence, being like, no matter what happens, it's going to be all right the way it's supposed to be. And you won't operate out of freaking fear. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that, like I said, yeah, I still struggle with the fears of this life, the fearful sights. It even Jesus says, hey, there'll be many fearful sights. So it's like, look, he didn't discredit the fact that he didn't say, hey, yo, pussy, that ain't scary. He didn't say that. He says, there will be fearful sights, but be ye not troubled. Take courage. Know now more than ever that these things be true, basically. So you got to learn to take all these negative emotional triggers and these demon triggers, man, these fucking traps, snares, these ensnarements, these manipulations, these fucking con jobs, these Wizard of Oz's and their curtains. You know what I'm saying? These magicians in their left hand and the right hand, not letting the other know what the other's doing. Freaking all these tricks, man. And it's like a man who is fearful is easily controlled. It's like he who makes you angry controls you. He that makes you fearful, what makes you fearful, controls you. And that was their whole game all along. That's why with this YouTube and Google and all this access to information, like Solomon said, the man who makes himself overly wise, he's like, why would you want to add all this damage to yourself? Because it's a pain in the butt, and just it's almost like you become a slave to to your own mind, man. And you increase wisdom, increase sorrows, and especially when you just broad wisdom, not godly wisdom, just sensual, carnal, devilish wisdom. That stuff doesn't do nothing much other than open doors for more fears and imaginations to overtake yourself. You know what I'm saying? And it says, confess ye your faults before one another. Because, like, look, this is like on your dashboard, like overheating, low oil. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, you bring it to the light. You don't, look, I'm going to act brave, but secretly, I'm going to be a fucking coward. I'm the cowardly freaking lion, right? I'm a secretly the cowardly lion, but I'm going to act tough. See, when you get in the real shit, you're going to break. But look, if you just acknowledge your own shortcomings every day and do the work to combat them, it's like, look, resist the devil. That means actively, it's a fight, man. It's a wrestling match. It's like two sumo wrestlers. One's trying to push on you, peel your feet off the floor so he can knock you down. But you got to plant your freaking feet sometimes. Or sometimes, like, look, he's coming to charge in to push you, and instead of fighting force with force, you kind of move out of the way. And then the person, since they're all awkward and trying so hard, they almost fall down on them by their, their attempts. And that's kind of how these demons start. You can start, wait a second, man. You're trying to freaking trick me again. And look, now that I've acknowledged it and I've accepted it, I can take the steps necessary to work at it so that it's not a stronghold anymore. It's like, wait a second, that's the foothold that's letting this thing in. Smash that motherfucker off. Or like, look, if it's a little divot, depression in the wall, splat some freaking, the mortar in there, whatever, with the stucco, the plaster. It's just like, look, you gotta, certain areas, you gotta, that rough edge there that these Assassin's Creed type demons are climbing up your freaking wall and infiltrating, you're freaking running around in here and causing the chaos. You gotta recognize, wait a second, you ain't gonna do that to me again. You know what I'm saying? You gotta actively say, wait a second. After you acknowledge it and you see what's going on, you gotta say to yourself, wait a second. I'm done letting these frickers punk me out. I'm done letting these people bully me. I'm not gonna listen to these demons that other people have, and they're trying to belittle me or cause fear, more doubt. They're trying to capitalize on it's that same demon just coming through a different person, trying to capitalize on the indoctrination, the freaking conditioning, because the constant repetition from the freaking from this false reality matrix, and their magicians, their they're magicians of Pharaoh, their news, their Pied Piper news and propaganda ministers and ministry of truth, PR. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look, Machiavelli talks about it's better to be feared than loved. Okay, and it's like God's not trying to make us be tyrants to one another, and God Himself is not a tyrant, because how come we have free will if God's the tyrant? It's like, seems like Satan's servants are all the tyrants who won't allow you to have another way of thinking than them. That their evil methods are the only way it can be, or nothing else. And they try to use the fear. Look, if you keep acting like that, this is gonna happen. They always are. Look, they're using shadow hand puppets, man. It's like, look at that big fucking tiger on the wall there. But it's what? Wait a second, man. No, that's just, stop. Put your hand down. You know what I'm saying? Stop casting these shadows. You know what I'm saying? Trying to trick me and make me believe the shadow was real. Like I'm an idiot. You know what I'm saying? And literally, if you allow them, and if you're gullible, and if you're freaking just like, look, brainwashed, you're going to listen. You know what I'm saying? And you're already under the spirit of fear, because look, your leaders use fear to control you. But yet, how come you can't see it? You know what I'm saying? How come you can't acknowledge it? Like, look, why have I become so fearful? So that's step one of overcoming a shortcoming or damage you've done to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times